So our next topic for discussion is how is lymph produced? So how is this lymph produced? Fluid, right, comes in all different forms, especially in different systems. So here I've drawn a capillary. Right. So you now know that a capillary, we'll call this a blood capillary. So a blood capillary is part of the cardiovascular system. And within this blood capillary, right, you're going to find red blood cells. Right? And you're also going to find the fluid within this blood capillary called plasma. Now remember that a blood capillary is also made up of simple squamous epithelial tissue. So the wall of a blood capillary is very thin, and this is to allow for diffusion. Right? Specifically, we're going to talk about diffusion of particles that you find within the plasma. You also have to remember that diffusion of gases is going to occur across a blood capillary. Okay? So within this plasma, right, you have antibodies, you have nutrients. But also within this plasma, you might be able to find things we don't want, like pathogens. Okay. All right, so that's all found within this fluid. Now, blood capillaries are found next to tissues. Okay. And recall that a tissue, by definition, is a group of cells that perform a common function. So here I'm drawing 3 tissue cells. Right? And here's their nuclei. Right. So in order for these cells, right, to function, they need the nutrients from the plasma, right, from the blood capillaries, right? So by diffusion, plasma diffuses into the cell, delivering whatever plasma is carrying. Now this fluid no longer is called plasma when it's in tissue cell. We call it tissue fluid. So now that these cells have their nutrients, what do you do with the fluid? Well, that fluid has to be returned back to the cardiovascular system. Well, how do you do that? Now we introduce the lymphatic system. So what you're looking at here is a lymphatic capillary. A lymphatic capillary is a closed-end vessel. In other words, it's not open to anything else. Right? It's only open in one direction. So we call it a closed vessel, or closed-ended. Okay, closed-ended. So now this tissue fluid that's in the cells moves into the lymphatic capillaries. Well, this fluid from tissues is no longer called tissue fluid. This fluid is now called lymph. And then this lymph will travel to larger emerging structures called lymphatic vessels back to ducts, and then ducts will return lymph back to the cardiovascular system through veins once that lymph has been cleaned, which we talked about in the previous lecture. Okay? So this is how lymph is produced.